everybody. Welcome into another episode of New Pod here on notfest.com. As always, I'm Joshua Toomey. That is Ro Coley. And this week, I sat down with Matty Mullins of Memphis May Fire. He was like 15 minutes from the house. I had to go down and talk to him, set that up, and we dove into his top 5 new metal albums. So that'll be a fun chat once we get to it. Yep. And we'll kind of get into a little bit more of the talk about the surroundings of me going and meeting up with Maddie. But Ro, man, what's been going on with you?
Well, we got a bunch of good and some bad, unfortunately, going on here. Unfortunately, a friend of ours here in the scene in Los Angeles passed away a couple months ago, and we only found out about it very recently. I actually found out about it during Metal Fest, so it was on the Sunday of Metal Fest is when I found out, and it kind of knocked the wind out of me. His name was Aaron Zawinski. He was a great dude, just a killer guy, knew how to play bass, knew how to play drums, he was a killer guitar player. In Los Angeles and North Hollywood, we had a thing called rock karaoke, which is live band metal karaoke.
Nice.
And so you could sign up to play guitar, you could sign up to play bass, drums, sing, whatever. And I would always get up and sing. And Aaron typically was either playing bass or playing guitar on my songs. And so me and him always had a really fun, like, live chemistry. And he was just a good kid. Like, honestly, he could have been one of my street teamers at Roadrunner. And you know, I cared about him just as much as I do about my street teamers who I love to death. We unfortunately, he passed away. He was living in Vegas. He got into a car accident and he passed away, but they didn't know like where like whose next of kin was. They didn't know anything. And so I was basically the second person who got the news from his former roommate. And I'll tell you something. The reason I bring it up, I mean, he was a great dude. Like I said, great musician. But man, this kid loved his new metal. You know, in just about every picture you'll see of him, if you go on his Facebook, it's him with a flaw beanie that he always wore. I very, very, very rarely saw him without it. And he was just a huge Deftones fan, a huge Flaw fan, and just loved all of the late 90s, early 2000s new metal stuff. But, you know, at the wake we just had a couple of days ago, it was actually somebody told a really funny story where he had like 14 warrants. And so they would only let you do 3 warrants at a time in Los Angeles County for whatever reason. Okay. And so they went, and so his former roommate went with him. And the judge kind of was like, hey, I've seen you recently. And he was like, yeah, I've got to do these, you know, do it 3 at a time. And so she calls the friend and him and the bailiff, I think, into her chambers. And she's like, all right, so what's going on? What do you do? And he was like, well, you know, when I was homeless, I had all these issues and we had these things that happened. And he's like, but I play music. And she basically told him, I think they showed them video of him playing, or maybe he played something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the bailiff and the judge went, concentrate on music, and they wiped away all 11 of his warrants. Wow. And so that's literally what he did. He dove so deeply into it that it was just like and I mean, when I would go to Skinny's, he would be up there playing bass and singing and doing like Ace of Spades. There's video of him doing some Deftones songs. I think he was doing 7 words rather. There's video of him. We did a Kiss tribute night, and he got up there and played bass on a bunch of songs. There's some pictures of me with him. We're both painted up, you know, and he was just, you know, he was just a good kid, and it was super tragic. And he was 39. And wow. I just want to say rest in power to Aaron Zawinski. You know, we're all going to miss him. We're in the process of starting up a new metal live band karaoke thing. And I was really, really hoping that he was going to be there and be just as big a part of it as he was for the last one. And now, unfortunately, every show we do is basically going to be kind of a tribute to him also, you know?
Yeah, man, that's tough, man. That is tough. I do love that he, you know, participated in those new metal nights and the metal nights and rock and roll karaoke and stuff. And you know, that's just tough to lose anybody, especially at 39, man. That, you know,
yeah, that is
a tough age to go.
Yeah, he moved from LA to Vegas kind of to save money and stuff like that. And he would post some funny stuff about just weird shit that happened in Vegas. And we tried to meet up a few times and it just didn't kind of gel. But I'm always in Vegas. So I was like, we'll get together at some point.
Right.
But yeah, so it is unfortunate. There's actually during the wake also, which was a real tearjerker, was him playing what's it called? Wild Horses by Rolling Stones.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that the name of the song, or is there more to it? Or
I think it's just Wild Horses.
And it's him doing it on an acoustic guitar, and it was just so soulful and so beautiful, and just you really felt the heart from this kid coming out in the song, and just all of us just being there wasn't a dry eye in the house, and everybody was really feeling it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That Aaron was a good dude, and we're all gonna fucking miss him. That kid had some serious promise, and I really wish he could have gone a little bit further. But yeah, I mean, this is just a tragic situation. So rest in peace, Aaron. We all miss you, and we love you. So that's
we'll kind of piggyback on the Flaw beanie, man. I saw a posting the other day for a Louisville Loves New. I guess they're going to do a new metal night where all the local bands do, obviously a new metal set. Right. Everybody gets up and does a couple of System of a Down songs and Deftones and whatnot. And I'm like, dude, if somebody needs to be a part of Louisville Loves New, it is me. Right. So I knew a couple of the guys that are playing in it. So I reached out. I'm like, nothing gets more Louisville new metal than a guy that was in Primer 55. Hopefully what?
I was saying that guy.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, so I'm going to attempt to try to, bum rush the stage at some point on the Louisville Loves New night.
Nice.
And see what happens. Get up and play a few tunes.
It's funny. I just heard about a System of a Down tribute band that's out here called System of a Clown, where they all dress up as clowns and play System songs. I'm like, fuck, I got to go and see these guys play.
Too fun, man. Well, I recently interviewed Maddie Mullins. Basically what happened is he was actually in town for an emo night, which is funny. But it's at a bar that's actually not too far from my house on the Indiana side of where I live. So literally, this is a bar we go to every once in a while. And we always say it's called Losers 812. And every time we go, we're like, if we were in our 20s, this was where we would live. We would be here every night and hanging out. And I interviewed Flaw there. A couple of the guys from Flaw came out, and we actually did an album deep dive on the Talk To Me episode a while back.
Very cool.
And kind of like live in front of an audience and things like that. So I see that Maddie's coming, and Remade in Misery was my number one album of 2022. So, by Memphis May Fire, reached out to the publicist, got it all worked out. And so when I saw that he was coming in town for it's the 1 year anniversary of the bar, they were doing a big emo night. And
nice.
I've interviewed Maddie before, and I know he has a little bit of a new metal fandom in him. So I was like, we're going to squeeze this one in, kind of like the last week's Megan Target episode with Vexed, not necessarily new metal band, but some new metal tendencies.
Right.
So I met up with Maddie at the hotel. He's like, can we just do it at the hotel lobby? And we will, because the bar is going to be too loud. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I was kind of bummed when he said that, because Losers looks cool. So there's a lot of cool nooks and crannies. We could have had a cool background. And I walk in and I look over to my right as soon as we walk in, and there are these two chairs sitting on each side of a fireplace. And I was like, too perfect.
Right.
so I walk up to the front desk and I was like, hey, I'm going to do a quick interview with one of your guests. Do you mind if I do it right here? And they're like, no, that's fine. I was like, is it okay if I move some chairs around and kind of set the scene? And she's like, no, go, no problem. Go for it. And I'm looking at this fireplace. It's one of those gas, probably has a remote kind of fireplace.
Right.
And I walk back over to him, like, is there any way we can get this fireplace on? And she's like, well, it is summertime, so we haven't had that thing on in a long time, but I'll call maintenance and find out. So like maintenance comes down, and he comes down, he's tattooed up and, 6'5", just this ginormous dude. And he's like, what band is it? And I was like, a band called Memphis May Fire. And he's like, all right. So he goes away, and I guess he went and looked them up and came back, and he turned the fireplace on, and he actually went and talked to the hotel, and I guess upgraded to the suite or whatever. He's like, we can't have that guy staying in a regular room. Not a lot of rock stars probably coming through the Sheridan or whatever it was over there by over by the bar, but it was everybody there was great. and sat down with Maddie for about 20 minutes and did a fun interview, man. So I had a great time with it.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. And after the interview, we actually went over to the bar for New Metal Night, right? And it's Friday. I worked all day. I got to work on Saturday. And, you know, I had heard he was supposed to be there at 9. So we get over there a little bit before 9. You know, we grab a couple of drinks, grab some food, and we're sitting there and it's getting closer to 10. And I asked the guy I know that works there, I'm like, hey, what time is he supposed to do his thing? And they're like, oh, it's going to be closer to 10:30. And it hit about 10:15 and we were both yawning and just like, we can't do this anymore. Like,
Right.
So as much as I wanted to stay and see Maddie do the emo night, we actually, I think, headed out about 10:30. I was like, man, I am 1,000 years old. I'm over there just like,
right. I'm like
hanging on by a thread.
10:30. You're gonna catch the early bird special at Denny's too.
Yeah, I got to get home to catch the late news or something. You know,
right? You got Matlock on DVR or some shit.
Yeah, what's it to you?
Yeah, right. So what if I got an AARP membership? What else? I get into movies on a discount.
But no, it was a fun interview. Great to see Maddie. You know, like I said, Remade in Misery, my favorite album from last year.
Nice.
And they actually just recently put out a new video from the album. And if you were to watch it, you would think it was like Terminator 2 budget. Like it's crazy looking. And
Really?
he kind of breaks down the video and the how they made it in the interview.
I'm always surprised lately when I see videos and I'm like, this seems a lot higher budget than I
Right.
and can afford. I'm like, where? But I mean, computer CGI and
Yeah.
all that is just, it's so much more commonplace than it ever was. So, you can do so much more with so little. I mean, Lord knows there's a kid that goes to the school that my wife is at. He's only like 12, 13, and he takes Marvel trailers and redoes them as stop action Lego versions of the trailer. And when I saw it, I'm like, wait, this is like a 12-year-old doing this? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, with who? And my wife was like, himself. And like, it's the most, and seriously, when you see these trailers, like these like Lego minifigure trailers, just reenacting the entire Marvel trailer, you would think that this kid had, 15 people under him all working together, and it's just him. So it is kind of incredible the stuff that people can do now, with a limited budget and make it look fucking huge. So
we speaking of kind of that world, I actually took my son to see The Flash. And I know the kid playing the Flash is not the best kid ever and all this other nonsense. Fucking hit all the nostalgia points.
Nice. I still need to see it.
Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, I had just listened to like a 5-part Stan Lee podcast, which obviously I know 2 different things, but my brain was kind of back in comic books and all the stuff over the years, and obviously Marvel and DC, obviously the rivalry over the years, because they were and that was brought up a lot, was Batman over the years and Superman over the years and things like that.
Right.
So just to see like everything they threw into this movie, which I kind of thought after watching it, I'm like, why wasn't this more publicized? Like how much Michael Keaton Batman's in it, like it's a lot.
and some of the cameos I've heard about also are pretty big deals. So I'm definitely curious to see it. I need to try and sneak it in this weekend. Last week we did a double feature of Transformers and Spider-Man. So it's like after like being in a theater for like 5 hours, you're like, okay, I think that's good for me for a minute. Like let me take a second.
Yeah, so. we did Back to the Future on Father's Day.
Nice.
We did Into the Spider-Verse maybe the weekend before that. We just did The Flash, and I still need to see the new Transformers. But yeah, I'm all about the movies. I love the movies. I don't care.
Me too. Yeah, me too. Anytime I hear somebody talking shit about it, I'm just like, you know what? Anytime I get to see like Transformers like transform the way they do in these movies, I don't care if it's Michael Bay or freaking whoever directs them. I don't really care. I just think it's the coolest shit ever.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, as a kid that grew up on Transformers and loved the Transformers, didn't really care for the the Michael Bay Transformers.
really?
I don't like the way they looked. I didn't like the way they transformed.
Totally dug it all, except
yeah.
for the third movie. The third movie I thought was garbage, but other than that, but this one I think is really cool. I'm sorry, we're getting off topic, but
no. I mean, the Bumblebee movie. I loved the Bumblebee.
That was
movie.
good. Actually, that was really good too.
So,
I thought this one was cool though. I thought I liked it kind of followed like instead of having like your Sam Witwicky, or one of these kind of character arcs, the humans that were in this, I thought were actually super likable and relatable and fun to actually kind of be around. It didn't feel like, oh, let's cast a sexy bombshell as the female lead or any, it was, I mean, it was just cool. I thought it just worked.
Nice.
And then the post there, it's not really a post credit scene. It's just kind of like before the end credits, or like kind of like right after the first set of credits. There's a scene that blew my mind. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it made me excruciatingly happy. So
I definitely have to check it out now.
Yeah, for sure.
I did want to kind of give a state of the pod, kind of a update. Ro and I really haven't had a chance to like talk about the episodes because we've been diving into so much stuff, and even the last week's Megan Target interview, like that was supposed to be 25 minutes. We talked for now. I actually talked to the publicist afterwards, and she was like, "I hope she didn't blow off all the European press she was supposed to do after you guys," but because I guess she was in a press junket, but she just kept going, and
you could have said no.
I kept watching the time, and I'm like,
yeah, me too.
I was like, all right, she kept going and she kept going. She never even once, said, sorry, I need to go, or we need to wrap this up. It was straight talking. But
I think that's a testament to that particular episode too.
Yeah.
Just that I think she was having a really good time, and I think for her, I think that's a better feeling for her than necessarily watching the clock. So
yeah.
I applaud her for that, and I thank her for that, because I thought that was like really one of the fun interviews, one of the more fun interviews that we've done, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like we really cracked into something really, really cool.
Yeah, a lot of great feedback on that one too. So
yeah.
So that was a cool one. Even going back to Mike Sarkeesian, obviously friend of both of ours, and that was a 2-hour episode of just a lot of talking, and the John Wysocki episode, that was a great one. Then that was one where going into it, you're like, yeah, we could do a Stained record. And then after we get done, I was like, good God, man, that record had so many hits. And
that record, yeah. And that was one of my favorite parts about that interview too, was, and about all of these interviews, is really going back and really listening to something like, Hydrocalysis is just that record is so, like, it's so much more brutal than people really give it credit for too, and so it was cool to talk to Mike, because he's been a friend of mine since fucking 97 or something like that, so that was really cool. But the Wysocki one, when it came to Stained, I dug their first record, and the second record was really cool, but it's like at that point it was, like I said, it was the glut of all of it all at once at that time. So it kind of was like, okay, Stained next, whatever. And then when I got to really listen to it again, just go, fuck, man, this is a powerful, deep, hard record. Like, just content wise, lyrically, musically, it really, and I think that was kind of the thing. It wasn't even like a nostalgia thing. It was almost a reintroduction for me of just how great Stained is and was, especially back then in their heyday, and I thought that's what I love about doing this podcast with you, is being able to go, oh yeah, like I remember that record, and then listening to that record and being like, or maybe I don't remember this record, like, and it's like, and to really, and also to listen to it with, an older mindset than where I was back then. Because like back then, I was 25, 26. I was angry at everybody. I hated the world. I wanted, I was like, metal is going to cure cancer. And, I was very just like, get out of my way. And now, with the sort of the gift of hindsight, I guess it's kind of cool to put it on now and go, oh man, like, yeah, like now I see why this record was so big, or now I see why this record is so impactful. Whereas back then it was, I was working at Roadrunner, we were competing with all these other labels, and it was like, all these kinds of things. And now to go back and see it and really relive it is, really brings all those old nostalgia right back to the forefront. But it also makes me go, fuck, dude, like I feel like now knowing it, it's like, man, I wish I could kind of go back to those days and really soak it in and let it appreciate. But it's nice to do that now. Yeah. And that Stained record is definitely one of those records that now I'm like, that's going back in regular rotation in my playlist.
Not to give any spoilers for next week's episode, but I've already went back and listened through one time of the album we're doing next week. And that was one of those things too. I put it on and I was like, holy fuck, man, this is such a good record, man. Just start to finish, just killer record.
So. Yeah. Without giving it away, that record is still it's always been a regular in my playlist ever since I got it. And when you guys hear/see who we're working with this week for the next episode, I think you guys are gonna all be really, really fucking stoked, because I know I am. And it's this is one of those things where it's like I can't wait to take this deep dive into this record. Because it's going to be a good one. It's going to reveal a lot of things that I think people just don't know at all. So you just wait.
Absolutely. And then a couple other things on just kind of cleaning up everything. Getting to interview like Adam Ramey of Dropout Kings and Homeboy with Jeremiah Mayhem of Concrete Dream.
Concrete Dream, right?
Getting those guys on, kind of the new breed, if you want to say, man. Those guys coming up. And just killing it too, man. So I'm enjoying, I'm glad this podcast isn't just one thing where we do one thing each week,
Yeah.
I was trying to mix it up where we do 2 top 5s, not back to back, but the way scheduling worked out, I had to throw this one out first. But top 5s, discography discussions, shout out Daniel Terry on that one. But just talking about rankings and things like that, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun once we get all this, just rolling even more.
And we have a lot of really cool interviews that we're going to be doing in the next several months that are going to really crack this whole thing open in a big kind of way, And I'm hoping that just like when you have with your Talk To Me podcast, when there's nothing that makes me puts a bigger smile on my face than when I see like Blabbermouth quote you
right
from there. I if there's one thing I hope that this podcast does, is it's not about this making money kind of blah blah blah. What I hope it does is helps bands that have maybe broken up maybe get back together again, or at least maybe start talking again, or something like that. I hope this podcast does something like that, where it helps, not only just sort of maybe not change minds, but maybe it may just adjust minds or change minds on records that people might have thought were lame back in the day, but especially with bands that maybe broke up or the relationship soured or people lost touch, that maybe this will help get people sort of reunited again. I really hope that's what this podcast kind of accomplishes, beyond just, doing the deep dives and everything like that. I hope something good like that kind of comes out of it.
Absolutely. Well, I think on that, man, I think we'll kick it over to my interview with Maddie Mullins, and I guess we will talk to you guys next week. So if you guys are enjoying New Pod, make sure you're sharing with your friends, your family, your best friend, your old friend. Call an old friend, telling me, hey, you remember how much we loved nu metal back in the day? Check out this podcast.
Oh yeah.
Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. And so for New Pod here, notfest.com, I'm Joshua Toomey. That's Ro Coley. And this is my chat with Maddie Mullins of Memphis Mayfire.
Enjoy.
All right, guys, welcome into New Pod here, notfest.com. Sitting here with the one and only Maddie Mullins. Maddie, how we been, man?
Awesome, dude. Cool. Yeah.
I was thinking today, man, is Maddie is that going to be like a long-term thing? Or will you ever be like Matthew Mullins or anything?
So by birth, I am Matthew Mullins. And then a lot of my friends from my hometown call me Matt because that's, what I went by growing up. But then I guess shortly before I joined Memphis, some of my friends started calling me Matty because we had so many Matts. It'd be like, hey, Matt, and 6 guys would turn around, you know what I mean? And then it just stuck. And so who knows? I think I'll probably, I don't know. Maybe I'll start going by Matthew, dude. That'd be
Matthew
switch
Mullins.
It up a little bit. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Growing up, I'm a Josh, and there's 1,000 Joshes. So for the longest time, I was just Toomey to everybody.
Oh,
and, for some weird reason, one person got to be Josh, and it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And he was a couple of classes under us too. I don't understand how he got to be the Josh.
You know what, dude? You shouldn't have been the Josh.
That's right.
This should have been the Josh. But also, Toomey's a sick name, though.
Toomey is
that's a cool name and nickname. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, my kids are like of the age now to where like people are starting to call them Toomey, which is hilarious.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And then even back in the day, like people, when you would actually have to call a house phone. People would call my house and my dad would answer and they'd be like, can we speak to Toomey? And he knew what they were asking for, but he'd still be like, which one?
Yeah. Oh, dude. And then obligation of a dad to pull that dad joke every time, right?
Total dad jokes, man. So, Remade in Misery's been out for a little bit. You guys just released the Misery video, which had I not seen the behind the scenes, I would have thought you guys dropped like $2 million on this.
Yeah, right.
But it looks amazing, man. Talk about the kind of the behind the scenes on that one.
Dude, that's a cool question because I actually haven't talked about this on any like interview yet. But yeah, so there is this facility in Atlanta called Soapbox, and they have a one of a kind $2 million 4D capturing machine. Yeah. And so like the only other one in the world like it is owned by the military. And so it's insane, dude. I mean, there's like 60 cameras and each camera has its own individual computer, but they all work together. And as it's capturing you, like you become, I mean, I guess like the best way to describe it would be like kind of like a metaverse character or whatever. So we didn't even know what we were going to do with the footage. We were just like, let's go shoot the video there because here's the coolest part about it. And I'm talking to all you band members out there. Shooting music videos is miserable because you shoot all day long, so many takes. You get sweaty. There's makeup there. They're trying to like pat you down, but you're gross. It doesn't, you know what I mean? It's like they want to get so many angles of you and so many different things that they can do with footage. When you shoot in 4D, every single part of you is captured at the same time. Okay. So we all did one time through the song. Nice. One time. Which no matter what it would have cost, it would have been worth it. It's so awesome. You know what I mean? So we did one playthrough, but that one playthrough at the same time is like hundreds of thousands of gigabytes in data. So it's like it just for my one shot through the song, it took 3 days to export before I could even see it, before we could even play it back. It's crazy. But in the moment, whether you got something good or not, there's all these monitors where you can see like what's being captured. And so, yeah, it was so sick. And if you like were to go in close, it doesn't look like it looks exactly like you, but it's like it looks like metaversey. You know what I mean? So it was just a really cool experience. I never thought we would do anything like that. So, and then we sent that footage to Ori McGinnis, who put it in Unreal Engine and created that world. And the world from the Make Believe video is the same. It was made in Unreal Engine, and I'm just like, dude, this is more exciting than even if we did drop some crazy big budget. You know what I mean? Like you can't find that type of facility that's just like accessible. So it's so cool to just like put you in that world and bring the song to life. So anyways, I'm talking too much, but yeah. No, Soapbox.
It's a podcast. That's what it's for.
Yeah, it's the website is soapbox.us, I think, and that's their Instagram too. Go and look at that. It is so dope.
Yeah, the one thing we had talked about when the album came out.
Yeah,
you guys had released like 9 singles beforehand.
Yeah,
and then but like Misery is still my favorite track on the album.
Cool.
So it's funny, like you kind of kept that one. I was like, how did they release almost the entire album and still have bangers, waiting for you when you get home?
Dude, you know what? And it felt like when we finished the record, it felt like that to us. Anytime you create something, you're gonna like it. But to anybody on our team, like, we all felt like this is an album full of singles. There's no reason we should put it out and let there be any deep cuts. Like, let's make everybody hear every single song. But yeah, like technically the album's only been out for a year, but some of these songs have been out for 2 years. Blood and Water and everything. But yeah, I mean, there's still so much life in this album cycle. And we have some cool stuff planned, and it's gonna get rowdy. So yeah.
It's funny. I was thinking about this too with the way you guys released so much of the album prior to it coming out. Mm-hmm. Then you release, the album itself.
Yep.
But then now you're still able to release, videos and singles from it.
Yeah.
Like it's an album cycle. I think a lot of people can kind of look at and maybe take it as a blueprint to do, because the one thing that was nice every time you guys released a single, it would just add on to the Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
So you would be like, all right, I want to hear this song, and then it would play the next 3.
Yeah.
And then another song, so you listen to that one, play the next 4. You know what I'm saying? Like it just kind of kept coming, and then back in the day when we're growing up and our favorite bands are coming out, typically you would get one single, then the album, and then singles after that.
Yeah.
So now this is almost like the reverse back to that, to where all the singles came out, then the album came out, and then now you're still releasing singles from it, and it's kind of like a almost a new way to kind of look at releasing a record.
Yeah, and I mean, like, for me, it's something I've always wanted to do, but then during COVID, like, the internet was so unbelievably negative, and everyone was like,
what?
Music is gone, and, like, you're never going to tour again, and all this stuff, and I'm like, you know what, dude? Let's take a risk. I was like, let's just do this, because I don't know what the future looks like. Everyone's being so crazy, like, but yeah, all that to say, like, it really turned out cool. I don't know if we'll do that again or what, but I'm stoked about it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, it just kind of shows that obviously, just shows how great of a record it was. Obviously, it was my number one album of 2022.
That's so sick, dude.
And,
I really appreciate you on that.
No, I mean, hey, I appreciate you putting it out.
Yeah.
And just kind of this is obviously the new pod here on Knotfest. So, what was kind of your history with nu metal, kind of growing up and listening to that and getting into it?
Well, I'm glad that you told me about this earlier, because that's such a massive question. And man, I think nu metal is like really making its way back into everything right now, and it's so cool to see. Because, I mean, dude, Papa Roach and everything was, like, such a big deal to me growing up. Like, me and my friends were out skating, and I wasn't allowed to listen to that at home, so I'd go over to their house and, like, Last Resort would be on. I'm like, this is insane. So, yeah, I wrote some ideas down. Number one, definitely Infest. I think that, I mean, for me, right, everyone's got their own little pockets or whatever, but that was, like, the record, right? POD Satellite.
Right.
That was one that I was allowed to listen to at home. So I got a lot of that one, which was ripping. Disturbed, The Sickness. No one can deny that. I don't care if you like Disturbed or not. I think they're so sick. And The Sickness was so sick.
Right.
System of a Down, self-titled.
Right.
And Korn, self-titled.
Right.
Both those albums, iconic for nu metal, just in general. So yeah, those were my 5 picks. But I've got a whole list below that I was like, what about? So Limp Bizkit, obviously,
right.
Yeah. Anyways, I could go on forever. But yeah, those were iconic albums for sure.
So let's dive into the POD.
Obviously, tons of hits on that record, and another one that. Skating was a big deal to me when I was young, and that's really when I got to escape and kind of listen to whatever I wanted to. POD was allowed in my house, which was cool, but parents were pretty strict. So bands like Korn and bands like Disturbed and stuff like that, like either I was in my brother's car and he had that on the radio, or I was out skating and.
Well, just kind of, we'll talk about that. I mean, obviously you're growing up listening to nu metal, but kind of having to sneak it,
Yeah.
When you would come in with like a POD, would you come in and be like, here's the lyric sheet?
Yeah.
Here, here's everything. Like, I swear they're not ironically talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's like, like with Youth of the Nation and stuff like that, it's like you could even just take that one song to your parents and be like, see, this is positive, know? And then it was like all clear from there, because you listen to the rest of the songs and you're in your bedroom and they don't know what's being said anyways,
right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, man, it was cool. Like, skating and listening to music was an escape for me, and that's like when I was skating was when the nu metal era was like explosive.
Right.
And so that was a lot of what I heard. I was down at the skate park. We had some cool skate parks in Spokane where I grew up. There was like this downtown bridge, and the city built this huge like concrete skate park underneath one of the bridges, and it just got all tagged up with graffiti, and it looked all sweet. And there was like these giant 12-foot ramps with like tons of vert, the drop in. It was crazy. But it was, that was my thing.
So funny you said that. I think we're right down the road from the skate park, and it's under the interstate.
Oh, cool! Yeah, so, I wonder if that's a common thing. Maybe that's a commone thing.
Actually, I think there are 2 skate parks near us, and they're both under the interstate.
Okay, yeah. So, we're not special in Spokane.
So maybe that's the urban planning where they're like, all right, we'll just throw it under the interstate.
Put it out there with the homeless under the bridge. We don't want to look at the skaters.
Right.
Yeah. No, dude. I was totally the kid that had the bar of wax and just waxing up like government building,
right.
Ledges and skating.
Right.
Me and all my buddies. Anyways, that's off topic, but yeah.
No, it's all good, man. So just over the years, I mean, with Memphis May Fire getting to play with, kind of the nu metal era bands, I mean, are there a few that kind of stick out to where you're like, tonight I got to go watch the headliner, I got to go side stage, I got to, what's
Well, yeah, and I mean, what's even crazier is that like a lot of these guys are friends now.
Yeah.
And dude, that's still so crazy to me. Like, I'll get a text from Jacoby just like, hey, what's up, brother? How's your heart or whatever? And I'm just like, you just got to for a second. You're just like, oh, that's the homie, and then you're just like, but dude, go back to 12-year-old you and be thankful that that's even something that happens. Yeah. Head from Corn has become a really close friend. Been out to my house for like a lot of different like bonfires and dinners, and it's even cooler. And I want to go watch everybody that's headlining every festival. It's always fun to see that no matter what. But like, it's even cooler when you get to know how genuine and sweet the people in the bands are that were making the music that influenced you. Like really, truly down to earth humans. And dude, Papa Roach, I would say that they are my favorite band right now. I don't even know if like, like back then I only got to, absorb what I was able to absorb when I was away from my parents. And then, so, I had a lot of other influences, a lot of like Christian music and stuff like that. And now like being friends with the guys in Papa Roach and having toured with them. And I think that they have continuously put out the best music of their career, one album after the next, after the next, after the next. And their latest work is, dude, it's unreal. Like every time I hear a new tune from them on the radio or whether I just like listening on streaming or whatever, it's always that feeling of, oh, I wish I wrote that chorus. You know what I mean? It's never like, oh, I could get into that or I could get used to that, but it's like, that speaks to me on such a deep level. And yeah, Jacoby and just who he is as a person. His little brother Bryson, who's done content for us on multiple tours, who does Papa Roach content. The whole family is so dope. Kobe's kids, they're just one in a million, you know?
That was one band at Louder Than Life last year. We went out there to check him out, and he can just orchestrate a crowd.
Dude, I'm telling you what, like how much older he is than me and playing before them every night, and then him going up and just ripping me to shreds. He is 100 times the performer that I am at my age, at his age, right? It's like he is just like incredible to watch. And I think that the era of rock stars is over for multiple reasons, but I genuinely think that Kobe's one of the last living actual rock stars. Yeah. Like our generation's rock star, or his generation's rock star. He's just like, yeah, he's incredible live. He's a great singer, a great performer, a crowd leader, like you said. Right. Dude, yeah, he's built for it. He's born for it,
Right. Kind of diving into Disturbed, man. What drew you to them?
When The Sickness came out and all of that was on the radio and was hyped so hard. It was that. Then there was like Puddle of Mud around the same time frame, and there was just this different tone being brought into rock music. And Disturbed had such a, obviously, David's got his own thing that's like so specific to him, but it stood out in such a way that it's like, not only am I like in it and I'm bobbing my head and I'm stoked, but right. But also I've never heard anything like this before, it's got me bobbing 10 seconds in, and I also am brand new to this sound. That's hard to do, it was instantly awesome, instantly sick, no pun intended. It was like, it was captivating, I guess is the best way to put it. And they've continued to put out music that's captivating, and David's at the top of his game as a singer. It's insane live, so yeah.
And you can also find him on Tinder if you.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that story yet.
Well, he recently, I guess, got divorced, and
really?
He actually put himself on Tinder, and then he got called out on Twitter.
Oh no!
Someone was trying to say, "Hey, someone's trying to, be you,
impersonate you,
impersonate you," and he goes, "No, that's me," and he owned it.
I love it. Let the man live his life. Yeah.
Swipe right on David Draper.
Yeah. And I do want to mention Limp Bizkit, even though I didn't put them in my top 5. It's obviously that record, even at my house, and I'm talking about Chocolate Starfish and Hot Dog Flavored Water. Even at my house, on karaoke nights, because we do a karaoke night every New Year's Eve at my house, and it's explosive. It's crazy, right? We bring in a whole PA system and everything, and there is always a Limp Bizkit song every year. That's the one thing, without fail, there's always going to be someone that does Limp Bizkit because it's iconic. For karaoke, live shows, I think their new record is so sick too. I think it's so true to them and just, yeah, blah, blah. But yeah, I was Papa Roach, Infest, POD Satellite, Disturbed the Sickness, System of a Down self-titled, when I was in middle school going into high school, I think is when that record came out, and it was just like you would see kids like with their headphones on and their hood up, like listening to it, like because they didn't know if like they were gonna get in trouble for listening to it. And then and that's another one that was just so like magnetic and addictive and wild. You know what I mean? Like it was so unexpected.
Yeah, that was the one that I've told the story a few times. So sorry for everybody listening that's already heard the story. But when I first heard it, I didn't like it. I was like, this is too clowny.
It's too much.
Too goofy,
Right.
Too silly. And then we actually drove up here to Louisville to see them. They opened for Fear Factory.
Oh, whoa!
On it was check out this lineup for new metal. Fear Factory, System of a Down, Head PE, Spine Shank.
No way, that's a sick show, dude.
And 200 people there.
Wow.
Whole thing.
Wow.
And I watched System of a Down, and I was just like, no pun intended, I was mesmerized. I was just staring at Surge.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm a lifelong fan now. And we actually went the next day to Memphis to New Daisy.
That's cool.
We saw the same tour the next day in New Daisy because we were just, young and like, we're going to Memphis now.
And sometimes, something can seem gimmicky when it's not. And you see it live and you're like, okay, I totally get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's it. I mean, if you watch any documentary about any pop star, because you always just assume machine, somebody put this together,
right.
blah, blah, blah. But then you watch any documentary in any band and you're like, well, maybe they really do. Maybe they really were talented and they just put this band together,
100%.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
No matter, I can watch a documentary about any musician and walk away like, all right, I guess I do kind of like them now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when you get to know someone's story and why they make the music they do, it makes even more sense to you. And then it's a whole new way to connect. But sometimes the mystery of not knowing those things and letting the music mean to you what it means to you without even knowing what it meant to the artist is really the special thing. But yeah, man, I think System of a Down was way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I think are untouched with what they do. No one has come in and done it like them.
Yeah, they always kind of talk about them trailing off, but I mean, even the Mesmerized, Hypnotized, this album, like all that stuff has great stuff on it.
100%.
No matter even if they
killing live, huge numbers live. Like they sell tickets still. I mean, like I don't know.
They headlined Sick New World.
Yeah. Like you could say whatever you want, but it's like they're a sick band. Yeah.
They're also one of those bands too that went away, and so when they come back, people freak out. They're like modern day like Glassjaw or something.
100%.
Like those bands that just went away and like, holy shit, they're only going to play 4 shows this year, so you better go see them.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty cool.
Well, as we kind of wrap up and just kind of turning lanes a little bit. I mean, you're here in town for an emo night.
Yeah.
You did one in Nashville. I saw some flyers for it a while back.
Yeah.
You did an emo night down there. How are you enjoying kind of these emo nights?
Dude, it's so cool. So the first one I ever did was in Phoenix, and this, this emo night promoter there had reached out to me, and I was like, okay, definitely not a DJ. I have no DJ equipment. I don't claim to be a DJ. So when they put like DJ set by Maddie Mullins, I'm always like, ugh. But I found out quickly that like I just get up there with a microphone and sing along to these songs that I've loved for years, and people have a good time doing that. And I was like, I'll do these every day of my life. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is like my 10th or something like that. The one in Nashville was nuts, dude. Like it was at Marathon Music Works.
Great venue.
So many people. Like, I mean, it looked like any tour package that would come through that room. It was crazy. And so much fun. They had like a live emo band that played or whatever. But this one, so this bar is owned by Kevin from Knock Loose. Mm-hmm. And he had just messaged me on Instagram. So here's a funny story about this.
All right.
He messaged me on Instagram. I didn't know that he had this bar. And he was like, hey, all he said was, hey, it's our anniversary. Would you do an appearance at Losers? And I was like, oh my gosh. So there's a Losers in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And I was like thinking that he wanted me to come and make some sort of appearance at him and his girls' anniversary at Losers in Nashville. And he was like, what would you charge? And I'm like, nothing. Like, of course I want to come and see you guys and celebrate you and all that. I just didn't know. Like I was like caught off guard. And then like the next day he's like, so hey, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, and he was like, it's just right kind of by Louisville, like in Indiana. And I'm like, oh, and it all made sense. And I was like, it's an emo night for the anniversary of the bar
Right.
a few hours away. I get it. So I was like, let's do this. So I came out and, it'll be the same thing where I just sing along. And I guess there's like a foam party. I've never been a part of a foam party before. So hopefully it's sick. It sounds sick.
Yeah, Losers they went to. It's a fun bar. I mean, like every time my wife and I go there, we always leave like going like if we were in our 20s, like we would be here every day.
Oh,
You know
really?
what I'm saying? It's
That's
like,
awesome.
It's like one of those vibes. It's just
Cool.
got a cool vibe to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just so when you go back to them and you're like, well, actually, my fee is
Yeah.
because you already told him you would do it for free.
Well, it's $1 million then,
right,
you know.
Yeah. Well, you
No.
got to pay for those sweet videos. You know?
Oh, yeah. Thank God for green screens, man.
Well, Maddie Mullins, man, it has been an absolute blast. And,
Dude.
when Maddie Mullins is 20 minutes from your house, you got to go, grab an interview with him. So
Yeah, bro, thank you for having me. And thank you so much for being such a big supporter of the band and having me on this. Like, I am fully aware that we are not a new metal band.
Right.
And I'm not trying to front in that way. We definitely have new metal influences. Definitely, like, a big part of me growing up and skating and everything. So I feel honored to be a part of this.
Right.
Thank you so much for having me. It's very cool.
Absolutely, man.
Yep.
Thanks.